Good morning, everybody. This is Randy Welsh, the Executive Director for the National Wilderness Stewardship Alliance. Welcome you to one of our ongoing NWSA webinars about wilderness stewardship. Today, we're here to talk about short-term funding. What kind of events, what kind of activities can an organization that's involved in wilderness stewardship do to help raise the ever needed dollar to continue on with wilderness stewardship operations. So today we have with me Peggie dePasquale from the Wyoming Wilderness Association. She's the Associate Director there, working out of Jackson, Wyoming. And Kelsey Maxwell from the Friends of Scotchman Peak, the new Communications Director for the Friends group there. They're going to be talking about a couple of different wilderness, a couple of different short-term funding events that they have been involved in their own organizations, dealing with film festivals and online auctions. And I'm going to talk a little bit at the end about some of the other fundraising, short-term fundraising implications that you should consider for other types of events. So with no further ado, I'm going to turn the time over to Peggie to talk to us about film festivals.
Thank you so much for having us, Randy. Wyoming Wilderness Association is so grateful to National Wilderness Stewardship Alliance for all of your support. So we're really happy to share our experiences, and I'm excited to present on, the idea of film festivals and loop you in on some of our pro tips that we've picked up along the way. Oops, All right, so film festivals as a fundraising tool. When I took my job at Wyoming Wilderness Association, I was really excited to dive into all sorts of things. But when I heard that film festivals were part of my job description, I got extra excited because they're just such a fun way to bring your community together. And it turns out a great way to make some dollars for your organization as well. To start off, I'll just give a quick overview of who the Wyoming Wilderness Association is. We're working across the state to uphold our mission to protect Wyoming public wildlands. And wildlands, I think, take on a lot of different meanings, but for us, we focus on designated wilderness, wilderness study areas, lands with wilderness character, roadless areas, and really kind of focus on those lands that either are wilderness or stand to someday be designated as wilderness. And we do this through, let me see if I can get my slides to progress here. Well, there we go. All right, so we do that through three pillars. The first is advocacy, and I think that's something that most folks are familiar with, whether it's a bill that's being introduced to transfer public lands to state hands or an opportunity to protect a wild landscape, where we're working with representatives both at the agencies and also political leaders to try and protect these wild lands. We also work in education programs. We do education programs with students of all ages, including our Youth Ambassadors for Wilderness program here in the Jackson area. That's totally free and happening this summer. And then Stewardship, which is what has really connected us with the National Wilderness Stewardship Alliance. We work with Randy to do wilderness stewardship performance monitoring across the state. And this summer, we're focusing on the Caribou-Targhee National Forest, Bridger-Teton National Forest, and the Bighorn National Forest for that WSP monitoring. But as I mentioned, we're working across the state and we're a really small staff. This is us at a recent board meeting, and the Zoom platform I know looks familiar to everyone on this call at least, but we are 4 full-time staff trying to uphold all 3 of those missions across the state. And we're constantly asking ourselves, how do we best build our community and fundraise for our cause? And I think that those things often kind of get siloed as 2 different things, but we identified that film festivals are actually a great way to do both of those things. And so over the years, we have hosted the Banff Mountain Film Festival World Tour at our headquarters in Sheridan, Wyoming. And that's probably our biggest film festival success story. We've raised well over $10,000 through that film festival in Sheridan, profiting somewhere between $6,000 and $7,000. And then we also work with the Winter Wildlands Alliance to bring their backcountry film festival to communities across the state. And then we've dabbled in some of the other film festivals, such as Real Rock, in our Sheridan community as well, just because we identified it's such an incredible way to bring the community in and gain a captive audience while fundraising for our cause at the same time. So the other thing I want to share is that film festivals bring this level of professionalism to your work and to your events. It's really wonderful to partner with these festivals that are already put together and already have such incredible narratives. And it brings a level of professionalism to your work and your outward appearance in the community, or the community you choose to host one of these festivals in. And the other great thing is that there are festivals about all sorts of issues. And as a wilderness group, and I'm sure many of you are also wilderness groups, the Backcountry Film Festival celebrates the human-powered experience in the backcountry, which celebrates recreation that usually is compatible with the wilderness level protections that Wyoming Wilderness Association is advocating for. So it's a really great match, not just because we want to throw a fun event and raise money, but also to promote the mission of protecting wildlands. And just to show that level of professionalism and fun, I'm just going to share this trailer from a few years back that the Backcountry Film Festival put together that we were able to share. Okay, so I just love that trailer, and I think it's such a fun thing, whether it's in an email blast we send out or just on our social media, to share this really fun, kind of uplifting visual that brings people in. Even if they never come to our festival, they kind of associate that sort of fun event with your organization and might catch their eye, so they look into some of your other programs or your mission in general and decide to give. And that kind of brings me to this idea that so often as a nonprofit, we're looking to build our community, and we're also looking to fund our mission. And I think that there are two types of events often that we go to. There are fundraisers, whether that's tabling at an eco fair or at an event that a community organization is putting on, or a fundraiser, which might be anything like Idaho Gives or WYO Gives, or these different kind of just fundraiser focused events. And those are two different types of events, but film festivals are wonderful because they kind of fall in this middle ground where you're both building your community and bringing in money. And although the funds aren't like going to fund your staff salary for the year, it is the sort of money that kind of fills in a lot of the gaps that you might have from other fundraising causes. And we've identified, however, that sometimes your film festivals might fall only on kind of the left side of this Venn diagram and be just a fundraiser. We put on a film festival for a couple of years and we realized we were just bringing in enough money to break even. And although that is still really beneficial because we got new members and we spread our message, because it wasn't filling kind of both sides of these circles, we chose not to do it again in that community, but really focus on those events where we're kind of covering both of these needs through that lens of film festival. So we have put on, as I said, many film festivals over the year. The BAM Film Festival has been going on in Sheridan for a really long time, and we've been bringing the Backcountry Film Festival to several different towns and communities across the state for way longer than I've been in the organization. But for the last 3 years, it's been a focus of ours every single year. And I feel like I have a couple things to share that might help any of you who want to put on a film festival do it well and not make some of the missteps that I did early on when I was just getting started and pulling this off. So the first and most important thing, obviously, for any event is setting the date. And so I encourage anyone who is putting on a film festival to reach out to other community nonprofits and different people that might be throwing an event at the same time as you, to make sure that the day that you select is yours alone and you're not competing with a different event that might steal really important people or just large numbers of people away from your film festival. So do your research and make sure that you make an event date that works for lots of different people in your community and can be leveraged in a good way. The next is tickets. So tickets are the way that I think most of us make our money through putting on film festivals. And there are lots of different ways to do tickets. You can go through Eventbrite or other services online, and they will be your hub for ticket sales, but they take a portion of your profits. And so for the Backcountry Film Festival, when I've put it on, I've often taken ownership over selling tickets. But for our BAM Film Festival in Sheridan, we partner with the WYO Theater there, and they sell our tickets for us, and we share the proceeds of those ticket sales. So research your different options, and I'm happy to talk to anybody more about some of those different options if you're interested. But know that tickets are often where that fundraising portion of this event comes from. So think it through, have a strategy, and know how many tickets you can sell. And then the next thing that you really need to consider is how much you want to sell the tickets for. And in Jackson, people are used to paying $10 to $20 for an event, where in other communities, we found that $5 is the top amount that anyone wants to pay for an event, because they're often offered free events, and to pay anything at all is kind of a step up for them. And so know your community and price your tickets accordingly, and figure out a really good way to sell those tickets as well that work with the community. And you probably know your community better than anybody, so start there. The next is partnerships. I think whenever you are throwing a party, if it's just your friends coming, it'll be a certain number of people. But if you bring in lots of other folks to the event, you can really increase your reach. So this is the Backcountry Film Festival poster for 2020 that we unfortunately had to cancel. If you notice the date, it's a week after the world kind of shut down. So we canceled this event, but it was gearing up to be a really great success. We partnered with the local Jackson Hole Playhouse. So they were promoting this event through all of their mediums. We had a local gear shop on board as a sponsor and also as a host. So they were promoting it in their shop and on all their social media platforms. And then we had the Teton Backcountry Alliance, which is another organization I'm associated with as a co-host as well. And reach out to people, because maybe just having their logo on your poster is enough for them to promote the event for you. Or maybe they want to have a couple minutes to talk to the crowd. But there are lots of ways where you don't have to kind of dip into what you're bringing in funds wise to bring people in and make them part of the event, and help you make the film festival as big of a success as it can be. You'll also notice lots of different logos on this poster of brands and kind of well-known names such as Stio and Flylow. And this brings us to the raffle portion, which I'll get to in a second. But make sure that you're not doing this on your own or in a silo. Bring in as many people and as many partners as you can to help spread the word, and be creative in talking to them about their needs to find out how it can be win-win without it cutting into the fact that this is a fundraiser for you, and that you need to cover your costs at the end of the day. So the raffle is kind of the second thing in addition to tickets that can make you money at your film festival fundraiser. So this is a table from our Pinedale Film Festival, and you can see that we have all sorts of fun stuff, from a massage to mountain house meals to cool goggles. And these were all donated for free to our event, because a lot of local businesses or therapists or different musicians really like to get their name out through these big events. And so they're often happy to donate, especially if they also believe in your cause. That's a help as well. And so we sold raffle tickets. It was like $1 a ticket, or arm's length for 20, I think is what we did at this festival. And we were able to bring in money through our raffle as well. Oftentimes in a community that people know are used to free events and that no one will buy a ticket, people will waive the ticket cost altogether and just focus on raffle sales. And this is one way to do a raffle, where you buy a bunch of tickets and you kind of have a gamble of what you're going to win if you win anything at all. And the other way to do a raffle is to have each item set out separately, and you can have little buckets in front of each item, especially when you have bigger items. Like we had a backcountry avalanche airbag, which is close to $600 item, and we made sure that someone could put their ticket directly into that bucket if they wanted that exact item. And that will often increase people buying tickets if they know they can really kind of put all of their eggs in one basket and go for the thing they want, instead of having a gamble that they might get the massage therapy session, or they might get a pair of goggles. If they don't ski and they really want that massage, they might be less likely to kind of invest in those raffle tickets. So there are lots of options for a raffle. I think one thing I said is pro tips, in person or virtual. I'm excited Kelsey's going to talk a little bit about that online auction option, which we have actually moved away from, because I know there are a lot of loopholes with being on the verge of gambling if you do it online, but I know there are ways to get around it. And I'm excited to hear from Kelsey how to do that, because WWA did not figure that out to begin with. Just to go back really quickly, partnerships really don't change if you're doing it online, but ticket sales can. If you're doing your virtual, if you're doing your film festival virtually, which hopefully will become kind of this dual part of every film festival, that people can either show up in person or watch it virtually if they rather attend an event like that from the comfort of their own home. The film festival itself, whether that's Banff or Backcountry Film Festival, have created means for ticket sales within their own platforms, which also takes the onus off of the nonprofit sponsor like us, and just creates another really easy way for us to engage a really cool community event without taking on too much responsibility or logistics ourselves. So as we move to the virtual platform, there are actually a lot of things that become easier, and tickets are one of them. Raffles are not so much, but I think Kelsey will tell us how to do it right. The next, whenever we do an in-person event, people love beer. And so we have always had incredible success with beer. Something to consider is that liquor licenses are sometimes harder to come across depending on which county and which state you're in. And so in Wyoming, if you're in Jackson, we were actually able to sell beer in a sense, because we were doing it by donation and people could give whatever they wanted and get beer. In Pinedale, we had to just give beer away. We weren't able to sell because that was kind of the confines of the liquor license and their county laws and regulations. So make sure you do your homework, because nothing is a bigger buzzkill than getting in trouble with the law for doing alcohol distribution. I've luckily never come in conflict, but I know of people who have, and apparently it's no fun at all. So just do your homework. But whether you're selling it or not, having beer on your poster and having it in your promotion helps bring people in. The other thing I'll share is similar to the raffle prizes. Local businesses really like to have their name associated with these fun events. So we've had all of our beer donated throughout the years. So any profits we make or any added benefit for having beer at the event is no cost to us and no money out of that final net profit that we make from hosting one of these events. Food. Food, again, a way to make money, but it also is nice for a local restaurant or catering business to jump in. And we've actually never kept the profits from any food we've had. We just know that it's a really good benefit for people to be fed. At a film festival a few years ago at Intermission, we lost a big chunk of our crowd because we didn't have food and people were hungry and they left to go get food. And I can imagine some of them came back, but some of them didn't. So moving forward, we've identified that having food at your film festival is a great way to keep your audience engaged. Volunteers. As a small organization, there's no way we can do it all. And often being spread across the state, when we go to a new community, there's just one paid employee or staff member kind of hosting the event. So we always try and rally volunteers, whether that's checking IDs and distributing beer, as our friend Dylan is doing, selling tickets at the front, organizing the raffle ahead of time. There's a whole slew of different volunteer opportunities, and it's a great way to get buy-in in the community. And I'm happy to chat with anybody about what a greater list would look like. But we've engaged up to 30 volunteers in some of our Jackson backcountry film festivals in the past, and it's the only way it's a success. So volunteers are key. And promotion is key. So there's a lot you can do on your own, making a Facebook event, pushing it on social media, Twitter, Instagram, also making sure you're talking to your friends at the press. Newspapers, radio, are all really important ways to get the word out about your event. And going back to that idea of partners, if you have a lot of partners who are also involved, having them push it on their social media and in their community is also a great way to get it out. But know that if you can't get people to your event, the fundraising part of it will be especially unimpressive, and it's not as fun if the room isn't packed. So make sure you really do your due diligence to do it, and to do it early. I don't think it's ever too early to put your Facebook event up there and start spreading the word that things are happening and reaching out to press contacts to try and make sure you get a lot of coverage leading up to the event. And the last thing is to hone your message. So this is our communications director, JJ McGinnis, at our Banff Film Festival this spring. We were able to do a limited capacity in-person film festival in Sheridan this spring, and it was a huge success. It didn't look like the room was totally packed because people were spaced out through the theater, but we came close to selling out both nights. We did 2 nights. And you have that room packed with people, and this is your chance. They've bought their tickets, they've spent money on raffle items or whatever they're going to do. But this could be a future donor or a future volunteer for you for years into the future. So make sure that once you have those people in your audience, you know what your message is going to be. Something I found is often people have no idea who's the organization is who's hosting the film festival. Often people will be like, yeah, I went to the Backcountry Film Festival. Like, it's being put on by Wyoming Wilderness. I had no idea until I get up in front of the crowd and address them and tell them about our mission. So think of this as your first impression for a lot of people. And so maybe starting off with your most contentious issue isn't the best way to make friends, but delivering a message that people are excited to hear, because I think the more you dive into these issues, we have more in common than we do different, and finding that middle ground to welcome people into your cause and inspire them to be supportive, whether that's signing up for your newsletter or writing a fat check to you a couple weeks later. We've had all of those options happen through these film festivals. So that's an important and cool opportunity as well. And then last but not least, follow up. At every film festival, we have a table with our swag and things about our different programs across the state, and we encourage everyone to sign up for our mailing list because, as I said, this is your future community. These are future additions to your community. So making sure that they don't walk in and walk out with no way for you to contact them and keep them in the loop on all of the good work your organization is doing. WWA has found incredible success through getting all of these people's emails and looping them in on opportunities in their community, whether that's to advocate for a bill, show up for an education program, or get out as a stewardship volunteer. Thank you. I appreciate the time to share these pro tips and some of our success stories. I can't say enough how much fun film festivals are. Sometimes nonprofit work can seem a little overwhelming or not as instantly gratifying, but film festivals are the sort of thing where you put a big push in and you throw an awesome event, you make money, and you build your community. And it's been a great asset to the Wyoming Wilderness Association team, and I'm excited for others to kind of jump on the bandwagon and make it part of your toolkit. My name, I said, is Peggie dePasquale, and that's my email and phone number, and I'm happy to chat with anybody about any of those details or logistics more as you dive into your own event, or reach out to me about any of the other things we're working on. Thank you so much to NWSA and for all of you for listening.
Thank you so much, Peggie. Well, let's transition over to Kelsey, hear about online auctions.
Sounds great. I'm going to share my screen right now.
Okay.
I think you're going to have to enable screen sharing for me, Randy.
Okay, let me go back and do that.
I know you already did it.
I think as a host, I was able to just hand that off. So
yeah, I think when she lost her connection, I had to redo it. So, all right, and then folks in the audience, please be thinking about your questions for Peggie and for Kelsey, and then we'll have some time at the end for questions and answers. We'll have you type them into the chat. Maybe we'll even open up the phone lines and you can talk directly to our panelists. All right, take it away, Kelsey.
All right, can everyone see my screen? Yes. All right. Well, my name is Kelsey Maxwell, and I'm the Communications and Outreach Coordinator at Friends of Scotchman Peak's Wilderness. And so Friends of Scotchman Peak's Wilderness is a small nonprofit organization located in both Idaho and Montana, whose mission is to pass on a Scotchman Peak's Wilderness for our children and grandchildren. So you can see on the screen, the Scotchman Peak's proposed wilderness area is right in the middle of Idaho and Montana, which makes a very interesting and complicated wilderness designation challenge for us, which is very exciting. So to pass on a Scotchman Peak's Wilderness, we take part in a lot of activities within the community. We focus on outdoor education for youth and adults through a winter tracks education program. We have volunteer-led hikes within the Scotchman Peak's proposed wilderness area. All engaged and passionate about an area is to get them into that area. We also take part in stewardship programming. So we build trails and maintain trails within the Scotchmans, and also educate hikers about recreating safely in mountain goat territory. And we're also an advocacy organization. So we put on community events to build community for a love for our wild backyard. So we are also a very small organization. We have 3 full-time staff members, 2 full-time seasonal employees who come on to help us with our stewardship in the summer, 1 part-time employee, and most importantly, countless volunteers that are really the backbone of our organization, helping us to get our work done. So I'm going to be talking both about the online auction and really short-term online methods of fundraising. And I'm going to start with the online auction. So we decided to put on an auction online primarily because of the COVID pandemic. We usually have in-person auctions associated with, large annual events. And we still wanted to have that opportunity to use an auction as a fundraiser during the pandemic when we weren't having in-person events. And so we decided to transition to an online auction. The online auction that I coordinated in a couple of months ago was the second online auction that we hosted as an organization. The first auction that we hosted was in April of 2020, which was an incredibly weird time. And so it had a very different mission and focus and expectations. And so this past online auction that I coordinated was in April, and the overall goal of the event was to both build community and raise money. So we wanted to use it as an opportunity to get more people into the Scotchmans, build relationships with local businesses, support local artists, and also recruit and retain volunteers. So the platform that we used that I totally loved, I definitely suggest it for everyone, is 32 Auctions. It is a very user-friendly online platform that is fairly cheap as well, which is wonderful. And so this is kind of what it looks like on the top part of the main page. It looks and this, you're seeing kind of like the admin little pencils, but anyway, gives you an opportunity to introduce people to your organization as well as browse all of your items, which is great because as previously mentioned, a lot of these events, people are getting like their first look at your organization. And so having that information as well as promoting ways that people can spend money for your organization is important. This is what the rest of the page looks like for the auction, and this is just kind of giving you an idea of some of the types of. Tried to have a diversity of items ranging from pieces of art to experiences, and also like a lot of adventure themed items. So these are some of our featured items that ended up being some of the most popular. For example, the horseback ride and the cabinets that was donated by one of our major supporters. They have horses, and we reached out to them asking if they'd be willing to take people out into the Scotchmans. And as you can see, there's 20 bids, and it ended up being incredibly popular. So I'll talk about it a little bit more, but for online auctions to be successful, it's really important to have a wide range of different items in terms of price and the type of item that it is. And then also having the items that are experience-based be bringing people back to the mission of your organization, which is getting people into the Scotchmans for us. So we ended up being fairly successful, which is wonderful. And this is just kind of like a top line overview of how the auction went. I want to highlight that there was over 10,000 page views, which is crazy. And that's definitely something that in terms of visibility, we can't do with an in-person event. So highlighting the role that online events can play in reaching a really wide audience is definitely something to consider when you're trying to think about doing in-person versus virtual events. And we ended up raising a lot more than expected. Our goal was 9,000, and we ended up raising 13,000. And those additional funds can primarily be attributed to the experience items that we auctioned off. They were all displayed as priceless in these experience items, which included a sunset sail on Lake Pend Oreille, the backcountry horseback riding experience that I mentioned before, a fishing experience on the Kootenai River. All of these items were incredibly popular because they were kind of experiences that you can't really get in any other context. So they were, I think, like the rarity and the pricelessness of those experiences ended up really helping the success of our auction. So some primary takeaways that I learned from the auction is, once again, to offer a diversity of items. That's important in order to engage all of your supporters and as many people as possible, and also the type of item. We also learned that, unfortunately, artwork does not sell very well online. You just can't see the quality of artwork or the quality of someone's craftsmanship online. And we really wanted to make sure to value these donations that artists were making. And so we decided to save a lot of the art that was donated for in-person auctions to ensure that they weren't, being sold under value. I also think it's really important to consider the financial cost and the time it takes to coordinate the shipping of all of the items. Make sure that you have the resources as an organization for that, and taking that time and money into consideration when you're budgeting for this project. Something that I was really surprised about is that gift cards sold incredibly well, sometimes like over the value of the gift card, which I wasn't expecting, because at first I thought that gift cards were just like kind of boring and who would want to attend an online auction just to buy a gift card. But it turns out that, at least for our community, people really enjoyed the idea of being able to support our organization and a local business at the same time. The idea that the online auction was an opportunity to boost the local economy is something that I think was really appealing for individuals. Even if you think, gift cards are kind of a boring thing to have in online auctions, definitely still consider reaching out to local businesses for a donation, or making a purchase of gift cards at a local business to, build a relationship with that business for future community events and such. And you can kind of always expect, or at least we found for our community, that you can always expect that they will be bought. And then last but not least, being creative and strategic with your experiential items. My goal for each experiential item that we sold was for it to meet two of our goals for the online auction. So it to raise money, get people in the Scotchmans, or build a relationship with a current donor or volunteer or business. So I always wanted any of our experiential items to meet at least two of those goals. So, being really strategic about what kind of items that you offer, and trying to think beyond just the item's value for making money. Yeah, and now I'm going to transition over to Idaho Gives. So Idaho Gives is a week-long fundraising campaign that a lot of states have, similar statewide campaigns. Like there's Colorado Gives, and I'm sure there's probably Montana Gives, and this week-long fundraiser. And each organization creates a page profile on, the Idaho Gives website, and individuals who want to make a donation to a state-based nonprofit can browse this website and see your page and decide that they like your mission and make a donation to you. And then overall, the entity that orchestrates Idaho Gives provides like a lot of resources and communications materials to the organizations, and it's overall just a really good opportunity to engage current donors, prospective donors, and work towards creating a culture of giving for your organization. So we had been doing Idaho Gives at Friends of Scotchman Peak Wilderness since 2017, which is really when, as an organization, we started to begin the efforts to make money from individual donations as opposed to just grants. And every single year we've been kind of adapting our strategy, and there's been a lot of turnover throughout the many years. So it's been interesting to see how different individuals with different tactics can raise money. But overall, I managed the Idaho Gives program this year and decided to use it as an opportunity to engage major donors as kind of like the primary goal of the week-long campaign. So this is just to emphasize that we have only really been soliciting individuals who support the Scotchman Peaks for donations since 2017. And in a short period of time, we have really increased our individual donor program and created this like culture of giving with our volunteers and supporters. And for any organization that is kind of looking to diversify their funding or transition from grants to individual donations, I think that our organization just provides some proof that it's possible in a short period of time with a little bit of effort in a small team. And then from here, I'm going to talk about just like the different marketing tactics that we used in past years versus this year, and areas that we think like had a big impact in the fact that we went from raising $1,800 to $6,200 from one year to the next. So in past years, we had a lot of text and not very many graphics on our Idaho Gives webpage. In general, that is not great practice because individuals don't like to read like 600 page, 600 word like essays to explain the story of your organization. And we transitioned to having more pictures, more clear writing, bolding sentences and everything like that, that we want people's eyes to be drawn to. Having tangible like donation amounts, if that makes any sense. So in past years, Wilderness Legacy helped us gain congressional designation for $200. That's not really a direct result of donating $200. So making the transition on that Idaho Gives webpage to $75, you'll sponsor a trail work day in the Scotchmans. You'll pay for people's food and beer and the tools necessary, or $300, you'll sponsor the entire cost of our Wildlands Scenic Film Festival. We also transitioned to trying to use graphics that are more more robustly explain what our organization does and where your money will be going. So for individuals who don't know anything about our organization, this picture is our banner, makes it more clear what our organization does and how your money will be spent. So the takeaways, oh, I forgot to mention an incredibly important thing. I apologize for that. One of the main reasons that we were able to raise a lot more money this year, as opposed to in past years, is we decided to have a matching campaign for Idaho Gifts. And we called upon 3 to 4 of our major donors to contribute to a matching campaign, and then of $3,000, and then asked individuals to help us reach that $3,000 matching campaign. And that was something that I think really encouraged individuals to give, because I think individuals just really, our major donors were really excited about the individuals that we asked. They were excited to, you know, be part of this like collective action, have a big role in this collective matching campaign. They felt special for being asked, and it was a very tangible way that they could see the benefit of the money that they were donating. So some overall takeaways: less words, more pictures, and make your fundraising communications mission focused, as opposed to, I don't know, like specifically focused on one aspect of your program. People love matching campaigns, like what I just mentioned. I think that really helped boost our individual donations this year. Cast a really wide net for emails. So this year we decided to reach out to anyone who has ever made a donation to Friends of Scotchman Peak's Wilderness, not just individuals living in Idaho. And we had, like, you know, at least quarter of our donations come from people who didn't even live in Idaho, even though it was an Idaho Gives campaign. So I think that just goes to show that people are excited about the opportunity to give, and it doesn't necessarily matter if it's an Idaho specific campaign for a lot of people. And once again, Idaho Gives, these short-term campaigns are a great opportunity to reach out to major donors and ask them to like play an important role in a short-term fundraising campaign. And that is all I have.
All right, well, thank you very much. Kelsey, I've got a couple of slides and then we'll open it up for conversation. Let me just share these for a second. All right, I think everybody who's been involved in the nonprofit world has engaged in some sort of event fundraising. I've had a chance to participate in a number of them over the years, and I just thought would just share briefly a couple of key takeaways from 3 different types. The banquets with a speaker could be any sort of event where you're doing you know, special keynote, having a meal, bringing people in. They all pretty much operate the same, but oftentimes they are a way that you can have a silent auction or a raffle associated with them, or just the cost of coming to the event itself through a ticket, or possibly in this case you make some sort of an appeal and ask people to break out their checkbooks and fill in send some money your way as a result of that appeal. Also silent auctions and raffles of a lot of different types associated with events or on their own, and golf tournament where you get a select participant of people to come in and play around the golf, usually with a silent auction or a raffle associated with it, often with a speaker as well. All ways to have people gather together and to share your mission, share your message, and ask for money. A couple of things to think about in these things. For me, typically, banquets with speakers, I've raised anywhere from, $15,000 up to $30,000, just depending on what the event was and the type and size of groups, anywhere from 100 people up to 500 people, depending on, again, your venue and what you're all about. Silent auctions and raffles, typically easy to put together, anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000 or $4,000, and depending on, again, if you want to go big, you can raise $7,000 or $8,000. Golf tournament, again, associated with the silent auction and the raffles with it, you're not going to gain that much just from the golfers participating. It's the extra added items that you engage with it, but you can make $10,000 to $12,000, and in a big tournament you can make as much as $16,000 or $18,000. But the name of the game really is in building your sponsorships. That's where the money is, and that's where you're able to build relationships with people over time. In any of these events, it's trying to get outside sponsors to come in and help defray some of your costs, as well as to participate with providing in-kind equipment, items that you can include in your raffles. But also the main thing is to get them to give you cash, which helps your bottom line with these events. It's a way to build relationships with major retailers and manufacturers that support your mission and that they would want to support and defray the cost of your event, whether it be covering a portion of the meal cost, covering a portion of your venue cost, getting a partial recognition for the event itself, but having their logo plastered everywhere. This is the way that you make most of your money with these sort of events. This is where the significant money comes along, is by selling sponsorships, engaging those groups over time. And often they'll do this year after year after year, which is a significant way to help support your organization. The downside of the small events, or the small the short-term events, is that you're dealing with a limited pool of people. It's just the people that come to the event or potentially see the advertising for it. And so that means that they have a limited amount of money available to spend. And so if your raffle, your silent auction is pretty much limited to just that group of people, that means that the amount of money available for your organization is also going to be limited. So finding ways to expand that pool of potential participants is a key to making these short-term events be successful. That's why if you have a raffle or have a silent auction, go in the online route so that you can expand your potential participation. Pre-selling raffle tickets before the event occurs to expand the number of possible people that are going to participate. That's going to expand your bottom line and provide more money to your organization. And again, with the participant event, you're going to need to create a demand, something that's going to cause people to want to come and participate. And as you think about ways to raise the funding associated with that event, you've got to provide what people want, which is really critical, whether it be a banquet, the silent auction, or a golf tournament. You've got to give them what they really want in order to get them to come, and then to open their wallet and provide for your organization. Finally, the last thing I just want to share is that these events don't just happen. They do take some pre-planning. My experience, usually 3 to 6 months in advance, and sometimes almost a year in advance for some of the bigger events. They all take a strong volunteer group, core group of 5 or 6, and then another 6 to 12 people that are going to help the day of or in the days leading up to the event. And it does take a small cadre of people who can make that ask, who aren't afraid to stand up and talk to people and say, would you give us some money as a sponsor? You know, would you give our organization $500 as a whole sponsor? And would you offer up, you know, some in-kind items that we can include in our raffle and our auction? So that's a skill that a lot of people just are afraid of, afraid to do. And so it takes a certain kind of person to make that ask. And it's once you find them, grab onto them because they're real important to your fundraising efforts. And any fundraiser is going to take persistence. It's going to take some time and energy and effort and persistence to keep at it. But part of that is make it fun as you do the hard work and the heavy lifting. And when you finally get to your event, make sure you enjoy it. Don't get all wrapped up about the minutia at that point. It's going to be what it's going to be at that point. Go forth and just enjoy the day or the event and make the most of it. So I just want to thank everybody for the short-term events that they've been involved in. And let's just open the floor to any questions that we might have. And unfortunately, given the small size of our group today, I'm just going to open the phone lines. So Kim, Maggie, Kelly, if you guys, Melanie, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and just come online and ask directly.
Hey guys, this is Kim Waits. I apologize if there's a lag. I'm zooming from home on my hotspot. I didn't really have a question. I just wanted to mention our gear store that we've used as a kind of a short-term fundraising initiative. Before COVID, we were doing it once or twice a year, where people would donate gently used outdoor gear. And we would have a gear sale with the gently used outdoor gear. And that worked really well. We raised, I think the first time we did it, about $1,800 in one day. You know, there was some labor going into it, of course. And then after COVID, it took us a while. Once we transitioned into Wild Alabama, we now have it online. So you have to factor in, you know, you're going and packaging things, but it hasn't really been too much, and it's and it also solves what we call an accessibility issue for some people that can't afford good gear to get in the outdoors. So it's not only fundraising for us, but it's also helping people get connected to public lands in that way.
That's a great idea, Kim, and it's something that we probably all take advantage of.
Thank you.
I'm driving down the highway headed to do some inventory, some trails. So I'm not going to ask any questions, but just say that I got some good ideas today. And thank you guys for presenting. I bet there are going to be a lot of folks who want to watch this, the recording. So thanks, Randy, and everyone.
You bet.
Thanks, Maggie. Be
Kelsey?
safe.
Kelsey, we've got a question for you about when did your online auction, when did you do your online auction? How much publicity did you do prior to opening for the bidding, and how long did you leave it open for bids? And then what time period did it take you to put the whole auction together?
Yeah, so we chose to do the online auction in April because we thought that was a good time based upon our other programs. And I also think there was some planning around doing it in April because it's right around tax season. So people are getting their tax returns and like stimulus and everything like that. And the online auction was live where people could bid for 2 weeks. And we promoted the online auction for about a week and a half before that. So for a week and a half before that, people could browse the items on the website. It was live and ready to go. And then for 2 weeks, they could make bids on all of the auction items. And I did a lot of social media promotion and promotion via our email listserv. Social media pretty much on a daily basis on Facebook and Instagram, and using Facebook, Instagram stories would promo one of the items that we had in our auction. That was also a good opportunity to promote the businesses that made the donation by using social media that way. And then also we're pretty aggressively did a lot of emails in the week leading up to the auction and during the 2 weeks, which I wouldn't usually do for other sort of campaigns, in fear of having people like, unsubscribe or getting sent to spam. But I found that the list that I was sending it to were people who had either already expressed interest in the online auction or who had already been opening auction emails. And I was getting, like 40 to 50% open rates on that, because I was sending like updates about new items being added and all of that kind of stuff. And people were just really invested in kind of like watching the items that they were interested in and seeing what new items I was adding as time went on. What else do I have to say about that?
How much did 32 auctions take as their cut?
I forget. Okay, so 32 auctions, it was super cheap. It there's like a baseline rate that I think is like 100, and then there's add-ons, and the add-ons range between like an extra $10 to an extra like $60. And so I got to customize the auction, which was really nice. So I could choose customizations like remove third-party ads, add additional add the options to have your sponsors highlighted. I could have paid extra money to have multiple photos per each auction item. I think I paid extra money to be able, or I had the option to pay extra money to be able to customize like the coloring of the website and everything like that. But overall, the amount I paid for the auction was under $300. So it was very cheap compared to like, how much we raised. Nice. I think it was like,
yeah, nice.
Yeah. And then the platform, you can either use PayPal or Stripe, and you can offer both of those. So we offered both PayPal and Stripe, which take a portion of your profits, but that's kind of like what kind of they all do. And then through PayPal and Stripe, it was fairly easy to collect individuals' information, like their first name, last name, address, and email were all required in order to make bids and win items in the auction. And so we could download all of that information and put it into our database of supporters. So that was really nice to make sure that the individuals that were engaging in our online auction, we could, get their information for future use. And so we ended up getting a good couple dozen of like completely new supporters through that.
Cool. Thanks, Kelsey.
No problem.
Great. All right. And are there any other questions out there anybody else would like to share? Well, I'm not seeing anything, so I'm going to go ahead and just close this out. We've used up our hour. Peggie, Kelsey, want to thank you very much for coming and sharing some of your experiences with short-term funding. Thank you for our audience for coming, and this has been recorded, so it'll be available on our NWSA website in a matter of days. So we appreciate that. Next up on our NWSA webinar series is a new thing that we're going to be doing as part of our National Wilderness Workshop coming up in November in Roanoke, Virginia, all about advocating for stewardship. We are going to start a series of stewardship advocacy webinars as pre-training for the National Workshop. and a potential trip to Washington, D.C. to put in practice advocating for wilderness stewardship. You'll see more of that in the days ahead as we put out the information and registration for the National Wilderness Workshop. And coming in July, we'll start a training session once a month through August, September, October, November as pre-work for the National Wilderness Workshop and our Washington office advocacy trip. So we appreciate everybody being here today. Thanks all for coming and all the work that you do for wilderness stewardship as well. So that ends our recording.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Randy.